What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Free China Pod. Got a special handsome man here with me, Seth. Currently on strike with the Carpenters up in Washington. What's happening, buddy?
Well, currently on strike with the Washington Carpenters, like you said. That's what's going on. And that's all that's going on, really.
That's all that matters in the world right now. It was interesting to me because I was talking to some friends recently about workers' rights and stuff, politics in general. But we got on the subject of strikes and stuff, and it was amazing that like so many people had zero idea about all the strikes going on. And I mean, I guess I'm like, I try to pay attention to it more, but even I am like not. I didn't know about the Carpenter strike until you mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
But I was telling them about like the Nabisco workers striking. There's another strike now that I also can't remember that I was thinking about, but I get frustrated at myself, but also of course at other people for not paying attention to this stuff enough, because it's super important and it affects all of us.
You're right, and like so it's like the Nabisco workers. I guess that strike they just agreed on a new TA, and I think, man, I'm not exactly 100% on this, but I think they agreed to like a 60-cent wage increase and then some other benefits and condition stuff, but also the Heaven Hill distillery, whiskey or bourbon or something. Yeah, so they're on strike, which is cool because I toured the Heaven Hill distillery where I'm from in Kentucky. They call it the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. I toured the like Maker's Mark and Evan Williams and Heaven Hill distillery. Yeah, it was cool. Anyways, and then also, I mean, like, you have that, and you have the Teamsters up in Canada trying to organize Amazon. That's cool. So yeah, you're exactly right, and it's all on the foot of like the teachers' strike. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, people within the movement, I think, have rightfully started calling it the new labor movement, and I really just feel like I have to say that I feel like that's 100% accurate, and I also feel like this new labor movement is kind of, like when a baby calf is born, right? And it gushes out of the sack and it starts taking its first few little like wobbly steps right around. I feel like that's the stage of the new American labor movement right now. We're kind of in that infancy, nationwide speaking, where we're just taking our first little kind of baby steps.
I think the good thing about that, and I think that's a pretty good portrayal of it, is that even though it is like in its infancy, this new wave of it, we do still have some of the old heads from previous labor organizing. So thankfully we, like that baby calf, do have a mother, so to speak, to use the same analogy, that's gonna lick us clean and say, all right, it's okay, you're gonna fall down a couple times, you're gonna do some dumb stuff, but hey, I'll be here with you and I'll help you guide you through it, so you can hopefully one day continue on this legacy. Right. I was looking the other day, just like to speak to how important some of this stuff is, about the decrease in unions. It pretty much exactly parallels, as the unions go down, wages also go down.
Right.
But for some reason, obviously productivity goes up, CEO pay goes up.
Yeah.
So it's clear that this is, even though it's gonna take a while and it's gonna be messy at first, it is absolutely necessary.
Right.
So like, speaking specifically to y'all, like how's everything going out there? I saw you send in a couple of videos. Looked like there was a grip of people out there.
Yeah, turnout has been like phenomenal. Not only turnout, like in as far as numbers goes, but in terms of like just like dudes are fired up, man. Not dudes, men and women. Carpenters are fired up, and
the royal dudes.
Right? Yeah, the royal dudes, exactly. And yeah, so it's like, well, I mean, there's just so much to talk about with. I mean, part of the reason why royal dudes are fired up is in large part due to like our union leadership and decisions that have been made. So it's not like, oh, we're fired up to strike. Like guys are fired up. Yeah. Like, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, it can be both of those things, and that's I think that's something that often gets lost in the conversation of should we be pro union or not. I mean, I think looking at, like I was just talking about, like how as unions decrease, so do union membership decreases. It was, at like the peak of it, it was a couple, in the 60s, 70s, it was like 30% union membership, and now it's something like 10, slightly over 10. But I mean, because that's so important, people either like to get on. I mean, as with everything, right? And especially in the age of the internet, you got to get on one side or the other. So either unions are evil, corrupt, and horrible for workers, or unions are the greatest thing that God has ever gifted to the planet, and you can't critique them at all. But I think this kind of shows that union membership is extremely important because it allows workers to organize together. But there's also complaints about the union. So like, I don't know how in detail you want to go, but like what are some of the complaints? What are some of the grievance that y'all have with the union?
Yeah, well, and quickly just to touch on a point you just talked about, because I think it's important. Because I've been kind of a peripheral fan of labor, right? From the outside looking in for a few years now. But then I didn't join a union until last year. It was when I started doing concrete, and then I switched to the Carpenters union. And so this is my actual first boots on the ground, real world experience with all of this stuff, right? And what's interesting is there's dudes that have been in the union 20 years, and they're right there with me, learning about the Constitution, learning the different laws. Why can't we do this way? And one of the things that I'm learning is just how vitally important, how crucial public opinion is. It really is integral to a successful strike. Is you got to have the people on your side, right? And that ties into a little bit of the grievances, right? But it's funny because as I've been out on the picket lines, it's been awesome seeing the showing of solidarity. Here's what, you're out on the picket lines and people honk and throw their fists out the window and scream support at you, and dudes on the Harleys circle back and do a burnout in front of the picket line and stuff. It's cool as hell, right? And it's funny because I'm walking, picketing and everything, and you hear beep, 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 and you look over and it's a truck driver, right? So Teamster right there with you, brother, right? Beep, beep, beep. You look and it's a city bus driver, right? They get it. And then you see people honking, and you look on the side of their trucks, and it's a utility truck, right? So yep, they're union, they get it, they're right here. So it's really interesting seeing that working class solidarity in real time. All these people, they get it, Yeah. And then on the other side of that, there is people, a public opinion that is negative. Okay, there on the first day of the picket, when I was in Fife at that laydown yard, we were walking, and then this old lady in this old lady 90 years old, shouldn't have been driving, okay? It pulls up in this old shit box, 1984, Mercury Topaz or some shit box like that. And she rolls around the window, she's honking, and as she's screaming by, as she's driving by, she's screaming at the top of her lungs. She's just going, fuck no, fuck no, just screaming fuck no at us, right? And in my head, I'm like, what is that? Did unions steal her birthday or something, or kill her parents? Why is she so? But it was funny, a whole bunch of dudes are all fired up, and she drove off, and a whole bunch of guys, let's go beat her up, It's this 90-year-old lady just joking around, but. Yeah, man. Yeah. So it's picket line's good, but hey, so what I was gonna say, public opinion is so important, right? And so our executive secretary treasurer, kind of the grand poobah of this area of the Northwest, Council of Carpenters, just. One of the things she did, a day or two before the strike, she goes out and gives this media statement talking about that the rank and file rejected this really good historic agreement, and she's our carpenters make great family wages, right? So she's going out here and making us look greedy and we're absurd for turning down this agreement, right? And it's holy shit, dude, what are you doing? That is not what you do. I don't know if it seems like malicious intent. That's just, the rule number one, right before a strike, you do not go out and say I don't know what these fools are talking about, man. This is a great deal. But I guess we're striking. All right, let's see how this goes. So there's issues with that. And then one of the things that happened, so I'll talk to you about how it went down on my job. So we're going on strike, right? And 2 days before the strike, they come out with a list of all these companies, like, you can't strike, and it's all the bit. And the council actually, before the strike, sent out a statement to the AGC, who were striking against, right? The Association of General Contractors sent out a statement saying, if any of the contractors within the AGC would like to sign an interim deal that would prevent work stoppages and no strikes, contact the council, right? And so the day before we go on strike, I'm told that the contractor that I work for, they signed a late night, last minute sweetheart deal to keep carpenters working, right? And so we were given a choice, pretty much. We were told, because our superintendent's a carpenter, and he was like, you guys can keep working, right, and pay into the strike fund, or you can go and picket. If you go and picket, I cannot guarantee you that you're going to have a job when all this is over, right? And so all the rest of the carpenters at my job, they stayed and worked. And I told my foreman, I was like, honestly, like, I legitimately thought about it for the whole day. That was in the morning that he said that. And I thought about it all day, because it's like, it's a tough fucking decision, man. Like, you're kidding. You're putting your reputation on the line. Like, you're going to be the only carpenter that walks from that contractor. That contractor's never hiring you again. And they're also going to tell all their contractor buddies, this dude, so... But I told my foreman, I was, hey, what's funny is the whole day when I was working, and this is a bit dramatic, like, it's a bit over the top, right? Yeah. But the whole time I was working, and I just, in my head, you'll either be a union man or a thug for J.H. Blair, right? And the whole time I'm hearing that, and I'm just like, I have to, like, I can't not do this, right? Like, this is literally what I'm about. Like, I'm not you're going to be a pretender or what, bud? No. And so I went up to them at the end of the day, and I told him, I was like, man, I've worked my ass off for you. I've done as much as I can to, like, show you guys that I want to be here, and I, like, take this apprenticeship seriously, and I want to do good work, and I work hard, and I hope that you guys see that. But I also feel like I have to do this. Like, I have to go and be a part of this strike, right? And he was like, hey, man, I stand behind you 100%. And he gave me a fist bump, right? And he said call me the second the strike is over. And so I walked, and I signed up for picket pay, because the union, when you're picketing, you get a small amount. Sometimes it's $30. Like, ours is $150. If you picket, you get, which is it's a little bit less than what unemployment would pay. But I just got an email now saying, it's like the latest drama within this whole thing is that almost, like, I would say 60% of the dudes that have been on the picket lines just got an email saying that they're not eligible for strike pay.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Because they are not working for contractors that the AGC has assigned bargaining rights to, which is pretty much just meaning that they all signed those. They're either under PLAs, project labor agreements, or they all signed those interim deals, right? And so there's just, it seems like that's actually, I won't say that. That's going out a bit too far, but this is there's not a lot going on right now to make this strike be successful. And sometimes it seems intentional.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned with that, like, self-sabotage of going out and saying, wow, our workers make so much and stuff like that. It's, I mean, even to me, who's someone who, I'm part of a union here, but it's not a very involved union. Like, it's a loose collection of like self-employed teachers, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're not going out to picket or anything. In fact, I asked the union rep when I joined, I was like, y'all ever go out and like strike or march or anything? And she's like, yeah, not really. We don't really do that. They kind of just make sure that they like lobby for us and then like make sure you have rights and talk to us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is nice, but I kind of wish I could like go out there and scream at some people or something, get a little catharsis. But that aside, it seems like that's stuff you would keep in house. What I'm saying is I don't have a lot of experience doing like labor organizing or anything, but even I know it's like if I have a problem with my coworker, I don't announce it to the world. I pull them aside and have a conversation about that.
Right.
It's just, it to an outsider looking at it also looks intentional, at least to me. But you also made the point about public opinion, and I think potentially, people listening can all go out there and you can look through the front pages of CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. Most of the time you're not going to see stories about this. If you do, it'll be a 500,000 word piece, and you'll see one of them on the whole site. It's kind of just a joke. So it seems like that's also intentional. It's an intentional choice to not cover these things because it's not always attention-grabbing headlines that Joe Biden shit his pants or Trump had another fucking tweet or whatever, or whatever, released another public statement. So that's frustrating. But one thing I've been happy to see, speaking about public opinion, was I saw for the Nabisco workers, Danny DeVito was like tweeting in support of them, and that got a ton of people fired up. Oh, was Danny Glover was also there?
Yeah, he was involved in Bessemer too.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I am very I don't really like celebrities or like celebrity worship.
Yeah.
But if they do things like that, it's just de facto helpful. And I mean, they already have celebrity is a thing. Like I can hate it all I want, but it's there. Yeah. But I think that's a much more useful thing than going to like a Met Gala or something. But I don't need to get too deep into that.
Yeah.
You know, I do wish that like people like these celebrities would go to those places so they'd get more eyes on them. But I mean, you know, tweeting about it, tweeting is not activism, as I do like to say, but in that case, it is at least bringing more attention to it, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and well, just to interject real quick, because you had mentioned you're talking about the media right now, and there's actually a really important point I want to make, because outside of Luis at Labor Notes, and there's been some like Oakland Socialists, some really independent media that have been covering the strike in a fair way, right? And when I say a fair way, I mean a fair way. I don't mean favorable towards the striking carpenters or anything. It's just saying it what it is, you know? And that's the beautiful thing about having a just cause, is that you can just illustrate the facts, and the narrative is in your favor, right? So there's been like 2 or 3 local news, right? Like Cairo 7 and things like that have done a quick 2 to 3 minute segment on the strike. And it's the most infuriating thing ever, because you can't really blame these local news stations, because it's just a quick 2-minute story to them, right? So what they do, they take a media statement from the Northwest Carpenters Union, and they take a media statement from the AGC that they put out, and then they just give the talking points from both those statements, right? So you have the Northwest Carpenters Union media statements talking about great family wages and, you know, just garbage. Yeah. And then you have the AGC statement that is just flat out false information, like verifiably false information. And then these local news stations come on and just say those points, and oh boy, did people get fired up. Like one of the things that they mentioned in the news, they're like, Carpenters rejected a tentative agreement that would include take-home pay of $115,000 a year, right? And it's funny because the bargaining committee is asking a lot of the rank and file, you know, what they should come to the bargaining table with this time, right? And the guys are joking around. They're like, well, let's do the deal that they said we turned down. Let's take $115,000 take home, right? Yeah. And it's funny because it's just fucking math, okay? Like you look at journeyman scale, what we make now, and you do the math, and it's not even close. And so what it is that it's a 4-year contract. So 4 years from now, right? Carpenters would be grossing $115,000 a year, right? At that pay rate. So in that article, one of the articles, it was talking about how Carpenter right now makes $46.92 an hour, right? Gross. And according to the MIT Standards of Living calculator, a family of 5 in the Seattle-Tacoma area would need to make at least $58 an hour to be able to live there, right? So already, on its face, we literally cannot afford to live in the cities that we build, which I don't feel like that's a tall ask, you know? Like I want to be able to live in the city that I build, you know? And so with inflation, like you just 4 years from now, $115,000 gross isn't going to be enough. I know to a lot of people in other parts of the country, it sounds like a lot. I promise you, like I live in a very rural suburb because it's all I can afford. I commute, like when I have jobs on the north end, my commute is like an hour and a half, and my rent is like $2,300 in this like very modest, 3-bedroom house in the suburbs.
Yeah.
And then the other things they were touting was MLK. They made MLK a holiday, right? Not paid or anything. It's just a day that we can choose to not work, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, I guess, right? And then the other thing,
That's performative. I mean,
exactly performative.
You know why they chose that one is because it's exactly performative. Everyone
Right.
can get behind him now that they've whitewashed his image.
Yeah. It's like, but that's literally, it's just a day that you're telling me that I can't work. You know, if you wanted to make,
Exactly.
And then the other thing is they were talking about retroactive pay, right? Because like, here's the way it fucking works, okay? Is that as of June 1st, when we failed to reach tentative agreement 1, we have been working under no contract. There is no contract for which we are supposed to be working under, okay? So retroactive pay is just a given. Like, yeah, it's this negotiation has gone on a long time, but you still have to pay us for those months that we've been working for you and building your buildings, okay? So retroactive pay, that should not be a thing that you're touting, like, we're going to pay you for working for us. Get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about, retroactive pay? And then the last thing, they talk about parking, like more contributions to parking. First of all, almost all the other trades have had paid parking, like in Seattle, Bellevue, those areas, for almost 20 years now. The Carpenters are one of the very few unions that don't get paid parking. And so their contribution is $1 an hour towards parking, right? So, and in part, it's $20 plus for an 8-hour day to work in a lot of those places, okay? Because the contractors don't let us park in the parking garages of the buildings we're building. You know, we got to park on the street. We got to park close enough that where we can haul our tools and go back and forth to the trucks and stuff. So $1 an hour, 8-hour workday, that's $8. After tax, what do you want to call that? $5.40, something about like that, right?
Right.
Okay, so what about the remaining like $15, $16? You know, that's still going to be like over $200 a month roughly, right? So no, that's not a good deal, you know. That's not even anywhere close to like paying for most of parking. But so the deal fucking sucks. Plus, and this is the really big thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. It's a 4-year contract. Fuck off with getting locked into a 4-year contract that no one's happy with. And also, there's a reason why they fucking did that. There's a reason why they want to do a 4-year contract and not a 2-year contract, okay? Because apparently 3 is just absurd. But I'll tell you why 3 is absurd. It's because they are trying to get all of the trades separated to where all of our contracts expire during different years. Because if we all have contracts expiring at the same time, hey, the operators aren't getting a good deal, electricians are pissed, we don't like our deal, well, guess what? How about we all go on fucking strike, right? Which has happened before. Matter of fact, I think it was in 2018, carpenters and the operating engineers were and if I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but it was what actually happened was, I'm sure, just as egregious, if not more, because I was like livid when I read about it. But it was something like the operators and the carpenters were both negotiating contracts at the same time. They weren't happy with it, and something like, I think the carpenters union leadership made it so that like we agreed to where the carpenters and the operating engineers wouldn't strike together, have a unified strike, right? And so that allowed the contract to get pushed through, and then right after the contract got pushed through, the operating engineers walked out on a successful 17-day strike. So it's like, dude, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, man. I think the main point is that people, especially like working people in America, really got to start thinking about how we view labor and our own rights in America. Because, like you were talking about inflation, like if you're not getting a raise every year, you're taking a pay cut with inflation, like, and
rising healthcare costs.
Yeah, exactly. And also along with inflation and increased productivity, like we need to get away from. I know it's like it's the hashtag now, this $15 minimum wage stuff, but like like I don't know that $15 minimum wage is like a living wage anywhere in the United States besides maybe like, you know, like where we grew up, like in the countryside of like
Mississippi,
bumfuck Missouri or some shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to get away from that. Not to mention, if, you know, wages just simply rose with productivity since like the 70s, it would be like, what, $23 an hour?
Yeah.
So we got to get away from that. And people also just have to get off cutting each other down. I've seen a lot of solidarity around this stuff, but I don't know if that's because I pay more attention to these kind of circles. So it's mostly like working people that are in unions or are union adjacent and like are in favor of this sort of labor rights. So they're saying good things about each other and trying to help. But yeah, I also, like you said, the elderly woman that screamed at y'all. Like, there's just people that, for some reason, I just don't get the mentality. Is my point of wanting to, not wanting someone else to get their fair share. You know, I just don't get it.
I can tell you what, the whole stuff with like council member Kashama Sawant, right? I don't know if I mentioned that, but one of the things that we're dealing with kind of right now amongst the rank and file is, once again, our EST, Evelyn Shapiro, right, has like a personal vendetta against Councilmember Sawant. Just like from the very beginning, they have been like button heads and like passive aggressive, bullshit statements and all this shit. And then the rank and file is getting fucking militant. Okay. Like I think it was the first or second day of the pickets, Evelyn Shapiro came out and was like talking to people, and things got fucking heated, like really heated between her and the group of picketers. And well, it was kind of good because they, in essence, like forced her hand to walk down. They're like, why are we picketing this big hole in the ground? There's nothing to shut down here. You got 200 fired up carpenters walking around in circles yelling at a big empty hole in the ground. 200 yards that way, there's the biggest fucking construction job on the West Coast, Microsoft. Okay, why are we not picketing them, right? And so they did. They walked down there the second day, and they stopped a 200-yard pour of concrete, right? So that's a lot of fucking money that went down the drain that day, right?
Yep.
And so, but Councilmember Sawant issued a statement, just like standing in solidarity with us. She's like literally just said in the statement, like, don't give up the fight. Your causes are just. What you're fighting for is just. You have the full support, and she, wanted to donate $2,000 to our strike fund, but we don't have a strike fund that we're allowed to have people donate to. And they just wrote to the International to allow us to tap into the strike fund. And the International declined that request. And when you read the letter that Evelyn Shapiro wrote them, it's no wonder why. It was like, I'm paraphrasing, but when you read the like lawyerly language, it's pretty much, hey, I don't know why they want to strike. This deal is great, but now they're asking to tap into the strike fund. I'm not sure if it would be a good idea or not, but I figured I would, contact you guys just in case. And it's like, holy, like, who the fuck what are you doing? Like, these are people's lives. Like, they're
who do you work for?
Quitting, they're walking off their jobs to go and picket for you. And you don't have the backbone to like contact the International to ask for assistance. Like, is it a pride thing? Is it no shit? Because they think failed tentative agreements is like a failure on their part, right? And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. I can help you with there, but anyways. And so, Councilmember Sawant, issued that statement, and then that night, Shapiro posts on like the Northwest Carpenters, all the social media, a statement condemning Councilwoman Sawant. For her political interference in our union. And then there was an op-ed that came out from some fucking like Publicola or some fucking rag that was condemning the fringe Marxist extremists within the Carpenters rank and file. And it's like, oh my God, like fucking red baiting,
All those goddamn carpenters reading the Mao's Little Red Book on site.
Yeah.
Just carrying around copies of Das Kapital that they can read on their lunch break.
Oh, but that's what I'm talking about. That's why I started this whole fucking rant here, is because now in a lot of these like groups where the rank and file are organizing themselves, the discourse has turned into like anti-socialism. Because there are like some pretty far left, like rank and file members, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it just has devolved into like this, like just the most toxic, like political fucking discourse. And it's like, well, mission fucking accomplished, way to go.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want, right? They wanted to divide the workers. I mean, the people in charge, like you're talking about building Microsoft and stuff. The last thing they want is a union. I mean, but leadership wants divided labor as well, because they're easier. I mean, when people are divided and they're not collectivized, then it's easier to divide them and pit them against each other, and then management gets their way and gets a bigger cut. So I don't know. Doesn't surprise me too much, but it's frustrating nonetheless.
The union leadership has gone so far as like there's a few like unwritten or whatever like kind of leaders within the rank and file, right? There's people that have been active and like and one of the guys, you know, I won't say his name, but he's been very active, involved, and it's funny because he has never once, he's very surgical. He has never once called for like a wildcat strike or used that terminology, but he has mentioned like, listen, like we have to, within the parameters of the Constitution, within the parameters of you know, NLRA and all this stuff, we have got to like do whatever we possibly can, because we're striking now. Like the fucking battle is here. We are in a battle. Okay. And you have to start viewing it as a battle. We are fighting for our lives right now, for our livelihood. And, you know, sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands and like do what you can to make sure that you win the battle. Okay. Like, and that's what we're talking about. Like, okay, yeah, we're marching down here because we fucking can, and we're going to shut down this job site because we can. I don't know why you're telling us we can't, but we're going to go do it and get the job done and make this strike effective. The whole reason I said that is because the union leadership has actually gone so far as to post on all their social media and everything. They went to Portland to get an attorney to write a cease and desist letter to this single member, and they doxed him. They had his home address and everything on the statement that they issued on all their social media. It's since been redacted and blacked out, but like literally, writing a cease and desist letter
now.
Yeah, but like union leadership doxing a union member and issuing a cease and desist letter to him, literally for like calling for collective direct action that is in no way like illegal or anything. It's just not what they want.
Yeah, man, that's insane. And what I was saying also is like it doesn't matter if you dox someone and then take it back and go, oh, I didn't mean it. It's like the screen capture button exists, so like too bad that's out there now. Yeah. So not only are you putting him at these people's lives at risk because you're trying to take away their money so they can't take care of their children, you're also literally putting their lives at risk because there's a bunch of psychotic people on the internet that, who knows what they'll do. Yeah. So hopefully no one wills this guy any harm is going to do anything. But yeah, what a fucking dumb thing to do. What are you guys planning, and what do you hope happens at least in the short term? What do you think you guys can get done?
Man, that is such a tough question because
I know, I'm sorry to get a big ass question like that.
It's tough because like right now the focus is on trying to make this strike effective and end it as quickly as possible, because after the first 2 days of picketing, the bargaining committee reached out to the AGC like, hey, and the AGC said that they showed no interest in coming to the bargaining table at this moment in time, right? And it's like, yeah, of course. Why the fuck would they? They haven't been hurt at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to apply pressure to make these motherfuckers, feel squeezed. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, picket for hours every day around an empty laydown yard or an empty hole in the ground or a job site. The ones that the list just came out for tomorrow. And it's like one of the jobs, the one that I have to go to because it's the one on the south end, right? It's like a month away from turnover date and it's done. The only thing left is like very minor punch list items. So it's like, that's completely ineffective. Okay. And, so it's just, there's this, the strategy has been like antithetical to what it takes to an effective strike, and like limiting ourselves to like very few like what the rank and file are kind of calling for is like, hey, listen, we show up 5:30, right? We establish a picket line. No one gets in. No one crosses. We shut that motherfucker down. As soon as they call it, as soon as they shut down for the day, you leave behind, 20 guys or whatever to maintain the picket line, and you have flying pickets. You go to another job site. You shut that motherfucker down. When that one gets shut down, you leave 20 guys. You go to somewhere else. Like, there's no point in having 250 carpenters marching around, taking up a city block to I talked about the laydown yard, and then on Friday, the one we picketed, it was in downtown Tacoma. It was a field office for selling construction. So there's no job site at all. It's just the office where like all the project engineers and stuff work. So we're outside of the office marching, picking, and yelling and everything. And you're looking in there, and there's a whole bunch of fucking construction nerds in there just tapping away at their computers, working like normal. It's like, what are we doing here? Like,
No.
This makes no sense. So right now, I mean, I think the consensus amongst like the dissidents, right, is kind of $15 over a 3-year contract is the floor. Like that's what it would take to even get close to like what the other trades have gone up to. But there was a moment in time where people were clamoring for 21 over 3, So I think that it's like 15 over 3 is where a lot of people would agree to. But right now, I mean, I think the focus is on making these motherfuckers sweat so that we can even start to talk about negotiations. Because right now they're like, oh, let's let them tire themselves out. Let's let their families starve until they have to go back to work.
That's always what they want to do, right? I mean, obviously this is for all work, but those higher up, whether that's union manager or actual management in companies or bosses, it's always infantilization of the workers. Oh, you're good and that cute. Just bless your heart. You're out there striking. That's great. But they don't. I mean, they don't view those. They don't view people as their equals. They don't view you as people. You're a pawn in their little chess match that they're trying to play of how much capital and power can I accrue.
Right.
But part of your point that you made is the only way to really get these people's attentions. Yeah, you can scream and shout. They don't care. They go home to their gated communities where you can probably dox them and you still won't get in there to do anything to them because they live behind a fucking gate with a security guard.
Yeah.
You got to hit their pocketbooks. And I think that's what you're getting at is like you talk about that Microsoft job, stopping that laying the concrete. You gotta hit them where it hurts, and that's the pocketbook. And one time at one job site may not do it, but if you continually do it, and like you're saying, you fly to these different job sites, eventually they're going to start noticing. And I think that's what people got to realize is that you can scream and shout. It's just like Twitter. Like you can shout and you can oh man, we fucking ratioed this motherfucker. You think like Bill Gates gives a fuck if he gets ratioed on Twitter? Like his pride is hurt a little bit, but he doesn't care because he goes home and sits on his giant pile of money and power. So
yeah,
I hope people can realize that. And I also I know you're a big proponent of it. We need to pass the fucking PRO Act.
Yeah.
So we can get rid of some of these bans on things like solidarity strikes, wildcat strikes, etc. It's way past time.
Yeah, and the really frustrating thing too is like just the amount of solidarity that we've been getting from like people posting on like the group, the Facebook group that I'm one of the Facebook groups that I'm on is called the Peter J. McGuire group. Is named after the guy that founded the UBC, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners. And that's kind of been the unofficial like caucus of dissidents, right? That's kind of where everybody's been organizing themselves, and communicating and everything. And there's nurses from like Minnesota that are writing in, and people from Portland, and a lot of the other trades are like helping us out. Like a lot of the iron workers and electricians are like posting the breakdowns of their previous contracts and like giving us tips for like bargaining and stuff, like what they did when they're, and then like I'll show you. I mean, people listening won't be able to see it, but one of the electricians today just made a funny meme and put it in the group. It's a picture of George Costanza, right? Mm. Yeah, but it's a picture of George Costanza like looking longingly into the distance, and it says, "Waiting for the carpenters to stop picketing an empty hole and hoping they come to your job site." And it's like, dude, so like there's other, like across the trades, there's other trades being like, man, are these carpenters going to come like picket our site so we can all walk off together or what? Like they're literally waiting for us to come and like, so...
Which is the point with all this. The important thing, not only about unions for individual workers, but for the whole injury one is injury to all. The classic mantra, right? Like it just makes it easier for people to understand and also have solidarity and to have social safety net support. Like I mean, it's not from the government, but it's from people paying dues and supporting each other. That's what you get with union organizing. And it's something you don't get as a non-union person. Like you can protest by yourself, or maybe try to organize a small protest at your work site, but you have no protections, and you have very little, if no, solidarity with other workers.
Right, and that's once again on a kind of macroscopic scale for the past 4 decades been by design. The atomization of individual workers and the splintering apart of those sort of like workplace. Hey, you know what though? I'll tell you this. This is like really the only shit that matters, and I really have very little reservation for saying that.
Yeah,
I've been thinking recently, like, oh, why does my life like all of a sudden have meaning again, right? Like, why am I so like, and I joined the military when I was 17 years old. I had to wait a year before I could ship off, and I joined the military because I had not been exposed to any other information than military are heroes that go and fight bad guys, overseas, and are courageous and all that stuff, and so I was ready and willing, dude. Like, I put me in the fight, man. Like,
put me in, coach.
Right. And then over the course of like, some years in the military and a couple deployments and a lot of learning, I slowly realized like, man, this is not what I thought it was. This is not like anything I want to be a part of. Right. And it was very depressing. And it still is like, I still feel really bad about that. Right. But, and then I started learning about like American labor history, right? And like what a union was, and like the dynamic between the employers and the employed, and started learning about capitalism, right? And I was like, so there's a whole other like war that's going on that needs fighters, right? That needs people like on the front lines in the fight, fighting for their lives, right? And the lives of their fellow workers. And man, anybody that is just looking for some meaning in their life, looking to improve their material conditions and the material conditions of people they care about. And I just cannot like get in right now at the ground floor of this new American labor movement. Contact whoever you need. If you got a DSA chapter nearby, they all have labor committees. If there's an active IWW, where you're at, get a hold of them, talk to them. Call the AFL-CIO. Talk to them about organizing your workplace. Talk to your coworkers first, right? But there's so many ways to get involved, and it's like now, these past couple of days out on the picket lines, dude, I live for this shit. Okay, like I wasn't at the North End pickets, but apparently things got a little bit out of pocket at one of them protesting the GLY. There were some framers in the site, and words were exchanged, and from what I heard, it was about to be a little bit of a scuffle, right? Until like kind of cooler heads prevailed and everything. And that's on like day 2 of the strike. So that's what I mean. Like, these guys are fired up. Like, we are ready to like do whatever we have to do to get what we deserve. Right. And it feels good to be like fighting for something again, fighting for something you believe in. And that's once again, I mentioned the beautiful thing about a just cause, man. When your fight is just, goddamn, man, like, look out.
Yeah, you don't have to hold back and worry that you might be doing something wrong, right? When you're fighting to make sure that parents can bring home food to their kids and pay their mortgage, pay their rent. I don't think there's anything that you can say is wrong with that, right?
And you don't have to package it any sort of flowery way or anything, like. Somebody's, you're a carpenter on strike, or you're lazy, get back to work, whatever. It's like, no, here's the thing, buddy, okay? You know who we're striking against? We're striking against the AGC, the Association of General Contractors. And just to define our terms here, in case anyone doesn't know what the AGC, the Association of General Contractors, it is, think of it as like the Business Roundtable or the Chamber of Commerce. It's a group of people that own, humongous, almost all of them international construction companies, okay? They are all multi-millionaires, some of them billionaires, that get together and say, hey, we're all going to bargain together because they're bargaining together, right? And so it's like, yeah, I'm sorry that we choose to strike against the AGC. It seems to me like they're doing fine, okay? I don't care about these fucking multimillionaires and their fifth yacht or their, summer vacation house in fucking Switzerland or whatever. I don't care about that. You know who I care about? I care about me and the guy next to me working right next to me at this dangerous fucking job that is it's a tough fucking job, okay? I care about that guy, the guy that makes sure that we both go home safe to our families at the end of every night with a solid day's pay for a solid day's work. And I care about the the guy, down the way who makes the same as me, and he's fighting medical bills because his daughter's leukemia or whatever. Like, that's who I fucking care about. I don't give a fuck about those guys. Do you want me to like, oh, you're right, I'll go back to work for the AGC? No, like, I stand for working people. I don't stand for people that own construction companies. And if you do, then go and join the fucking AGC. See if they'll take you, you know? If not, join a fucking union.
Amen. It's funny too, and I keep going on, but a lot of those are the same people that would be like, oh, if my boss ever talked to me like that, I'd fuck him up. It's like, no, well, that's what they're doing right now, because if you fight anyone, you're going to catch a case, you're going to go to jail, and it's just like not the way to deal with problems. That all aside, that's what you guys are doing right now. Is you're ideologically, you guys are going to battle with the boss. You're saying, oh, you're going to try to cut my pay? You're trying to talk down to me? Fuck you. Let's go. Let's throw hands. Obviously, not actually fighting, because that's generally counterproductive, unless there's some labor history with some bullets flying. There's
a lot of labor history where chairs are thrown. Hey, I just not to interrupt you real quick, but I was watching
go.
I think it was in the early 2000s, the Carpenters in Canada that were striking, and dude. The president of the UBC, Doug McCarron, the dude is a legit. Everybody right now, go and just Google Doug McCarron, read his Wikipedia, read about him. He's a legit fucking criminal, like a legitimate criminal, like big Trump simp, right? Like always in Trump's office and everything. And I forget exactly what it was, but there's a video on YouTube. It's called Lights Out McCarron. And it's a union. I forget what local it was up in Canada. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were all holding up signs that said "one member, one vote." And then one of the head of the local, he was talking to Doug McCarron, who came in, and they're all standing there in the union hall. He said, "I just have 2 questions." I forget what the first one was, but then he's like, the second one: will each member get to vote for these 2 positions or whatever, like who their union? Mm-hmm. And you see him like lean over and like talk to his like lawyer or whatever, and they're whispering. And then he looks at him and he goes, the answer to both those questions is no, right? And the union leader's like, well, then I don't give a good goddamn rat's ass what anybody else has to say about this. I'm going home. He grabs his coat, leans it over, and everybody stands up and starts like, fucking bullshit. And then as they're leaving, they shut out all the lights in the union hall just to like, I love it because it's such a dumb little like, it didn't hurt him. It was just like, this is how little we fucking respect you. We're going to shut the fucking lights off on you. You know?
That's phenomenal. And it's kind of the thing is like these people, you want to talk, you mentioned laziness earlier. It's like, no, that guy's lazy. He doesn't do anything. He hires people to do all his work for him. He hires the construction workers to do the construction. He's not putting his body on the line. Construction is one of the most dangerous jobs, at least in the United States, okay? And he hires lawyers to make all his decisions for him. Like, give me a fucking break. That guy's not working hard.
And you know what? You just brought up a really good point that I want to put out into the ether, just because I don't think I've ever made it publicly, but... And I admittedly am a little bit biased because I am in the building trades, and I really am proud to be a carpenter. Like I really do enjoy my job, and so I admit my own bias, right? But I also feel like I can say this because, dude, fucking McDonald's employees need a union. Call centers need a union. Like everybody needs the power. So the reason I say this is that I think that the building trades, trades like carpentry, iron workers, because iron workers, they kind of have that classic American image of like the tough as nails like worker, and like a lot of the building trades do, and that's why I think it's so important for people in construction. The building trades to be so vocal about this stuff, because it's like, no, it has nothing to do with how hard you work or lazy or whatever. Yep. It has, goddamn, this fucking cat, dude. It has, she keeps fucking chewing on the cord to my headphones and messing with my shit. I think it's important for like people in the building trades to stand in solidarity with every single worker. No, there's no, some burger flipper deserves $15 an hour. Yeah, some burger flipper deserves the right to a decent fucking living, and the right, a burger flipper deserves to like raise a family with dignity, and that's that whole adage, like an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, you know?
I would also like to throw in there's no unskilled job. These people that
1000%.
call these people burger flippers. Please go try to. I worked in food service for like the majority of my life until I graduated university. It's skill.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to interact with people who view you as like less than human, who are screaming at like a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old has to be a bigger person than some 35-year-old fucking. I won't get into the anyway. It's okay. There's a lot of skills in there. I challenge someone to go and have a manager like talk down to you and have everyone in the area talk down to you while you work on your feet for 8, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day.
Task management, too.
It's not unskilled. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get away from this unskilled burger flipper. These sort of terms, they're bullshit terms. They don't mean anything, and they're literally created by management, by the owners to demonize, divide us. Stop regurgitating fucking ownership's talking points, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. You got anything else you want to end on? Anything you want to say? I'll let you. I know you got to get up early tomorrow. I'll let you rest. We'll do this again soon. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah. There's a bunch more I want to say, but I guess we'll catch up in a minute. This is the last thing I'll say. Okay. I think that people waste a lot of time arguing about politicians and entrusting politicians and elected officials to somehow improve their material conditions or make a difference in their life in some meaningful and impactful way, right? And I don't know how old anybody that's listening is, but I'm 30 years old, and I feel like I've finally figured out, like, why would anybody trust it? Like, no, take matters into your own hands. Get organized. You want better pay? Go and get it. You want to work in a workplace free from like harassment? Then go and make that happen. Okay, like that's the beauty of a union is it's us. You know, it's like man, there's fucking strength in numbers, brother. Like if you get enough people to say like, hey man, we deserve more, you know, then go and take it.
Yeah, purest form of democracy right there.
Right. Yep.
It's beautiful. I love to see it, man. You love to see it, and I love to hear your beautiful voice. So we'll get out of here, but yeah, we gotta make this happen again soon. So we love you all, everybody. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to do all the stuff I always tell you to do. And yeah, go join a union or go start a union at your workplace. But with that, we'll get out of here. Thanks again, Seth, for coming on, and don't y'all forget. FCP最大。
FCP最大。